Last week we told you about the Department of Justice opening an investigation into Rankin County and the Sheriff's Department there. Well, now we are hearing from community members who've been pleading for the DOJ to launch this investigation. Quentin Smith joins us right now. What is their reaction to this news, Quentin?
Well, Howard, this investigation is something they've been waiting on. They're accusing the Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Brian Bailey of creating a toxic culture, a culture that they say allows deputies to use excessive force and get away with it.
The Justice Department announced today,
as she reads the news of the investigation being launched by the Department of Justice,
the investigation will seek to determine whether the Rankin County Sheriff's Department engages in patterns or practices that violate the Constitution and federal law.
Angela English says this is news she's been waiting to hear.
It was a prayer answered. I was elated.
See, English is the president of the Rankin County chapter of the NAACP. She and others say people have been experiencing mistreatment by the department for decades.
Accused of things, made to say they did things that they didn't do because they were being coerced into making confessions. Drugs and stuff being planted on them.
English alluding to the Goon Squad as just one example. You may remember earlier this year, these 5 former Rankin County deputies and former Richland police officer were sentenced for physically and sexually assaulting Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Parker.
I think, God spared Michael Jenkins and those guys and Eddie Parker's life for a reason, to just shine a light on all the injustice and all the hatred that has been going on in Rankin County for a long time.
Will Sims has lived in Rankin County all of his life. He says he welcomes this investigation. Now, he and English are hoping this investigation will lead to big changes within the Sheriff's Department.
This investigation is going to bring up a whole lot of things. I'm sure that a lot of unpleasantness for a lot of people. People are going to really see how deep this racist tradition that really goes at the heart of Rankin County. So we want to get beyond that.
We need a new sheriff. It starts there, because you're never going to find, the people are never going to trust the system as long as the same person is running the system.
Now, the DOJ is asking for your help. If you've experienced any civil rights violations from the Sheriff's Department, you're asked to email or call the department. That information is right here on your screen, or you can also visit our website at WLBT.com. Quentin Smith, 3 on your side.